we talked about seeing the deer a little bit. I think you guys also employ a bit of a trail cam strategy in where to set up, right?
Yep.
Yes.
We
Go ahead.
what are we at, 11 right now? 11 cameras, I think.
Yep.
11, and is that in a very small confined area because you feel really good about it? Is it in a kind of all over the place? How do you do that?
It's seasonal. So in the summertime, obviously we're looking for pictures of bucks. I mean, getting deer on a trail camera is cool, but you're looking for big bucks. So we want to focus those cameras where big bucks are going to be, right? So in the summertime, deer are growing their antlers, and during that time, there's velvet on their antlers. It's a very fragile time for the deer. Their horns, the best way to describe it is they hurt, right? So if you bump up against something, it's going to hurt, and they don't necessarily want to go driving through the thick, nasty brush if they can avoid it. So what they'll do is they'll tend to stick to more open areas. You'll see them in fields a lot more. So when people go, want to drive down the road and they're walking down the highway, or not walking, but riding down the highway, they'll look over and they'll see bucks in the field. Come October, November, when they shed that velvet, you're not going to see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summertime, we tend to focus the cameras in a more open area, and we avoid the thicker stuff. So we'll have a couple on a field, or maybe at an entrance into a woodlot from the field, where they just have an established trail. And then as we get closer to October and their velvet starts to shed off, those cameras will be moved, and we'll move them into thicker places. So your swamps, thick briar patches, laurel, places like that where you don't really want to walk through it, but the deer want to be there because they don't want to be seen. So
yeah,
that's where they feel safe, is all that thick stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the value of that time of year is it's less thick, right? So you can get into these more dense areas. You can still see a little bit more. So then, what kind of frequency are you checking these cameras? Are you setting and forgetting? What kind of setup do you have that you can be able to actually see the footage?
It was a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a mix of cameras right now. I think we have 3 cellular cameras. So these cameras will actually take a picture and send it straight to our phones. And then we also have, so then the other 8 are just, they sit there and we have to go in, switch out the SD cards, and then bring the SD cards back and look at them on the laptop. And we usually only get to look at them, I'd probably say, once a month, maybe, once they're out, if we're lucky, just purely based off us getting up there and actually getting out to be able to check them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cellular sounds like a great idea.
If we can,
it is awesome.
Leave them soak, that's the best. That's the best scenario.
And do you have tips for anyone watching, what to do with trail cams? Have you had some lessons learned? I think, Tanner, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that you had maybe some lessons learned. Is there any quick tips you can just kind of give to us?
Yeah.
Turn it on.
Turn it on.
Yeah. We had with a couple of them. Turn them on. Tip number 1.
Yep.
Tip number 2, hang them at head height. You want to be at about 5 feet and angle them down just slightly. You don't want them in the deer's vision. Make sure all of the brush and little twigs and blades of grass and leaves, whatever could set that off, make sure it's out of the way. You do not want 100 pictures of a twig moving back and forth.
Sounds like experience.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
If you can keep that camera at about head height, that's a big deal, because the last thing you want is a deer sniffing your camera.
Gotcha.
And we learned that the hard way when we were having them too low. You step back and you look at it and you think it's okay, and then next time you go check it, you get a picture of a deer and you're just looking at the legs of them walking by. So
that's a good reminder of why you needed a head height, right? So you can actually see what it is, not just legs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a fun one in that What's the craziest picture you've ever gotten on one of your trail cams? Have you seen Sasquatch?
Not yet.
Not yet. There's a chance.
What's going on, guys? Just want to give a reminder to like and subscribe down below. Keeps us doing what we're doing, keeps us pumping more videos. Appreciate you.